on the drive over here, and when we were talking, I I didn't get to hear because I asked you to save it for the program. But talk to me about your hospital stay. I see
The
her
whole
eyes close.
dude, it was
It was a nightmare.
an absolute
It should
nightmare.
not.
It started with we're at the feed store working one day, and we get a phone. She gets a phone call, and it's a little scheduler over there at the VA trying to schedule me for a colon recession surgery.
Yes.
And she's like, "Excuse me," and the other line rang, and I went to her desk and sat down, and one of my longtime buddies was in the feed store BS, and it's the doctor that did the colonoscopy, and he goes, "She's on the phone with the VA," and I'm on the phone with the VA, and this doctor, he goes, "Well, unfortunately, I got some bad news. We found cancer." And I just sit down. It's like somebody take the whole
Right.
took my
Wind
legs
out
out from
cells,
underneath
yeah.
me. And he tells me, blah, blah, we found 2 polyps. You have colon cancer. And I'm like, what? Well, I didn't know at the time, but I get off the phone with her. And at the same time, the other lady's trying to schedule me for a colon recession surgery and telling my wife this. And we didn't even know. We'd never heard cancer before.
Right. The doctor we had not gotten the results back from the doctor yet. And the first time we knew something was wrong was when that lady called to schedule the surgery.
So, and this was in September of 2018. And the next 2 weeks were just, I was driving to Shreveport nearly every day, doing all these tests, blah, blah. And it's about everything was about 2 week increments. But about 2 weeks later, this little old girl calls me at the feed store. And she said, "Mr. Wilson, we need to get you in to see a pulmonologist." And I said, "Isn't that a lung doctor?" And she goes, "Yeah." And I kind of chuckled. And I was like, "Honey, you're on the wrong end. My cancer is in my colon." And she goes, "It's in your lungs too. Would next Wednesday or Thursday work best for you?"
What
And
the
I'm like,
hell?
"What?" So I went and did a bunch of more tests. They ended up, sent me to take a PET scan. Drive back over to Shreveport. My truck can drive to the Shreveport VA by itself. I go over there and take this PET scan, and we had at our local clinic, my primary care physician, a meeting the next morning already scheduled. And Christina went with me. We go over there, and this doctor, he walks into the room. We're sitting in there, and he's got this piece of paper. I still have it in there. It's a computer printout, but he had written notes all the way down it.
Red ink.
And he comes into this little thing, and he's, "Mr. Wilson, you don't need an oncologist. You need to go home and have a long talk with your family."
And hands us the piece of paper.
It says the cancer is metastasized. It's throughout your body. She starts I'm in complete shock. We've been married 6 months anyway.
Right. I was a little emotional. That's
Right.
what he picked at.
And she
Anybody
asked him how long, and he just kind of shrugs and goes, "We don't know, weeks to months." Blah, blah, blah. We went back I went to they wanted to cut one of the lymph nodes out of my neck. And I'm like, absolutely. So we went and scheduled that. And this doctor, towards the end of it, he was a Cajun. He had this big booming Cajun voice. I love this guy, man. He was awesome. But at the end of it, he goes, "I got to tell you something." And he said, "Wait till that other doctor leaves the room." The other doctor left the room, and he goes, "That ain't cancer." He goes, I've been 20 something years telling men bad news, and you did that. What I took out of your neck is not cancer, sir." And I came home, and I was like, I don't know if this guy's for real or not, but that man, I could tell by his body language, his everything, that he believed it wasn't cancer. And about 2 weeks later, we get a phone call, and it was, well, you only have colon cancer, which is wonderful news. Don't get me wrong.
Right.
But the 6 weeks leading up to that, however long the time frame was
Hell.
Hell, absolute hell. And I actually filed PTSD with the VA for all of this treatment. We went to the hospital in October of 2018. Go into the surgery. I wake up I'm actually in the recovery room, and I start waking up, and this dude, I'm in this huge fog, and I realize that there's somebody next to me. And this guy he asked his partner, he goes, does this guy have a birthmark on his arm? And he looks at me and goes, do you have a birthmark on your arm? And I'm groggy out of it. And I look down my arm, and it's like brown underneath the skin. And the nurse goes, holy fuck, his vein blew out. Because he asked me, he said, why are you awake? You know, he's going, why are you awake? Holy shit, his vein blew out. So they pulled the IV out, put it in the other arm. And he says, I'm not supposed to do this, but I'm going to hook you up, brother. And he knocks me back out. Sometime later, I wake up. I don't know then if I think I was still in the recovery room. I wake up, and there's this big white male nurse, and I'll kick his ass if I ever see him. I will beat that man. I said, guy, I have made a mess of myself. And he comes over and lifts the sheet back. And I had shit myself, whatever it was, just, blood and whatever, cleaning my body out. And he goes, yep, you sure have. And pulled this diaper looking just thing out from underneath me and goes, I'll be right back, covers me up, walks out of the room. And I passed back out or do whatever. And it was hours later, I wake up and the shit is dried on my junk. And it's blistered.
Oh my
me.
God.
And when I wake back up, my wife had to clean me up.
When they finally he was in ICU at this point, and when they finally let me come back there to be with him, that was one of the very first things he said to me was, I need your help. And so we got him cleaned up, and after I got him cleaned up and situated, I went and talked to a nurse, and it was of course, shift change had already happened. So the people that were there that morning weren't the ones that left him, but they were just in shock. They were shocked. And of course they were apologizing, but nobody came in to check on him for another hour or so, even after I went out there and talked to him.
So, and I'll beat that man if I ever see him on the street. He has an ass whip coming. He left me for hours like that. They put us in a room, and I'm in constant pain, and I'm going, something's wrong, Jimmy. Something's wrong. Something is wrong. And
that was after we got out of ICU.
Yeah, I was in my regular room. Well, my gut started swelling up, and it got so distended. It took 8 hours to get that morning. I'm going, I need a doctor. Something's wrong inside of me. Something's wrong. It probably took 8 hours. A little old nurse or tech or somebody was walking down the hall, and I'm like, man, come here. You go get me a doctor, right? I don't care what the fuck doctor it is. Go get me a doctor and bring him in here. And this doctor came in, and he wasn't anybody I recognized or had anything to do with. And I told him something. My gut is blowed up. Like the staples are stretching. They're about to pop out of my gut.
And I had already been to the nurse's station. I don't know, 5 or 6 times. We'd pushed the button, and I started just walking down there and looking somebody in the eye, asking for help. And go ahead. Sorry.
No, you're fine.
Okay.
So we finally get this doctor in there. My regular doctor comes in, and I think it's evening time. I don't know. And he goes, oh, we need to get some x-rays. They send me upstairs, like 2 floors up to the x-ray. First off, they had no bedding or anything for her. And she wasn't leaving. She was like, I'm not leaving. They had to borrow sheets and a blanket.
And a chair.
From an upstairs floor. It was like the floors were competing against each other. Well, this is our shit, not your shit. We got her sleeping arranged. About 4 nurses come in. They throw me on a gurney. They take me upstairs to this x-ray room. They x-ray me. And this lady comes in afterwards with a wheelchair and goes, you need to get in this wheelchair. And I'm like, that is freaking impossible, man. I can't get in this wheelchair. And she goes, I said, I need a gurney. They brought me here on a gurney. And she goes, well, I ain't got a gurney. I got a wheelchair. You need to figure out how to get in it. And she went and got another lady, and they manhandled me into the wheelchair. We're walking down the hall, and this lady pushes me into a corner of the hallway. I'm about this far away from the wall, and walks off with another lady talking about the freaking state fair going on in Shreveport and how good the turkey legs were. And I'm saying, my gut is so swollen up. I'm in so much pain.
He was having trouble breathing.
Yeah, it was pushing up on my lungs. Finally, I hear footsteps behind me, and this male doctor comes up behind me and goes, "Well, where do you belong?" And I'm like, I don't even know where I belong. And he read my tag, and he goes, "How long you been sitting here?" And I'm like, I don't even know. And I'm livid, I'm pissed. He carried me back down to my room. Sometime that evening, these two doctors come in, and Shreveport, Louisiana uses a bunch of LSU student doctors, which is awesome. I mean, I'm glad they're getting the experience and all this. They came in and they're first saying, "Well, we're going to have to cut you back open. Something's wrong in your gut."
His intestine had swelled to the size of my forearm. They brought this little electronic pad in and showed me the scan that they had just done on his abdomen, and it had swelled to the size of his forearm. I couldn't even believe that's what was going on inside of him.
And they had said, no fault of theirs, it just happened, but my guts got folded over on themselves. Well, it cuts off the blood and the oxygen to it, and they said your guts are dying, and that's why they're swelling up. They're bloating because they're dead. They get no oxygen, no blood, and they said we're going to have to cut you back open. And we sat there and talked about it. And I was inclusive in the conversation. Of course, I was highly medicated, and they said, "Well, we could." And I kid you guys not, they went down to the supply room, got some vacuum tube, some lube, some blue tape or some shit, and came back in the room and ran this 5/8 tube up my ass while I'm awake, up my ass, and tried to get up there to thread and fold the guts over. And it actually worked. While it's most humiliating and very painful. I mean, they just cut my fucking guts out. Now they're running this whole ass. But they hit the sweet spot and folded the first layer of the gut over, and the expulsion.
Yeah.
This black, the most god awful smelling funk starts pouring out of this. I mean, shooting out of this hose under pressure, and it was relief. I could breathe. My gut physically went down, and you're like, oh my god. Well, they asked her we're in my recovery room. They set the shit in the windowsill and just shoved it up my hind. They asked her to hold the trash can. There's so much stuff coming out of me. They're like, oh my God, they're freaking out. They get her to hold the trash can and catch all this black, funky liquid shit. And that's the part that they've lied about. One of the parts they lied about in the records. When you read the records, we inserted a drain tube and left it over 24 hours. No, they ass raped me with a freaking tube with my wife in there.
And they didn't leave it in. As soon as everything stopped flowing, they removed the tube. There was no letting it drain for 24 hours.
But they had that thing, I promise you, 4 feet up inside of me. It did work, and it was immediate relief. I could breathe. The pain was going away. I guess, blood went back to my guts. Everything starts working. So the next day you can't leave until you make I had to get up and pee the first time. I had to walk, and I had to poop. Was all the criteria I had to do. So the next day at some point, just all of a sudden a bowel, it's like, I got a potty. Oh crap. And I'm laying in bed. I've barely been on my feet. Well, I got up, I made myself towards the bathroom, but I made a mess the whole way. I left whatever that black funk was the whole way. And so there's a shower right there in my bathroom. I turned it on. There's no hot water in our whole wing of that hospital. It was cold water, the whole wing. So I rinsed most of everything off in this cold ass water, come back to bed, start pushing my button, trying to get a nurse up there. This nurse comes in, and there's a trail. It's nasty. I made a freaking mess. She comes in and she's all, oh, hell no, I ain't cleaned that up. And so she just walks out the door going, Nancy, you're going to have to clean that up. You hear her walking down the hall, and I'm like, are you fucking kidding me? Yeah. So I said, I need some scrubs or a gown, because I had messed all over that gown. They bring me a gown. I guess my wife must have been sleeping at the time, because she had not much sleep throughout this whole thing. Anyway, she comes in there in a little bit. They finally got a janitor to come in there and clean the mess up. my wife goes, "What's in your pocket?" And I'm like, "What the hell are you talking about?" And I look down in the breast pocket of this gown. There is a cone from another vet in this pocket that was dirty. I'm like, "You sons of bitches gave me a used gown?" And I have pictures of all this stuff.
Yes.
It was horrible. The whole rest of the stay, they kept asking me. I'm locked up on the side of my bed holding on to it. I mean, I'm just in freaking tremors, and they're like, "What? Hey, I hurt," and you son of bitches scared the hell out of me. And this dude treated their doors down all night long. Help me. I had horrible reactions to some of their drugs, nightmares.
Yes. Oh my word.
It was absolutely horrible.
We couldn't get a nurse to come in and help him get up to go to the restroom. And he would get in a bind so often that I would just wash my
You
hands,
keep talking.
use hand sanitizer, put gloves on. I would unhook him from his IV pump, take him to the restroom, get him cleaned up, get him back to bed. I would, of course, change gloves, wash hands in between. But I would take care of him and then hook him back up to his pump. And then I kid you not, 30 minutes after we're done and settled again, the nurse comes in and says, "What y'all need?" They were rude. They were disrespectful. And I can't tell you how many times he would push that button and nobody would come. And I would walk down that hallway to those nurses and ask them, "Please, just somebody come in here and just look at him, just talk to him."
I
And it
am
was
so sorry y'all went
It was
through that.
terrible.
So sorry y'all went through that. I don't even know what the hell to say. Whew.
It was
So-
a nightmare. So I tried talking to some people about this, and we were cautioned to be careful with the pictures that we took.
So they came back and said I had to. Did I have to poop or did I have to eat a solid meal and keep
You
it
had
down?
to eat and not vomit, and then they did also want you to have a bowel movement.
So I think I was there on the third day. I'm going. Let me out of here.
Yeah.
I'm going home. I don't care. I'm going home. We ordered some Uber food because their food. I'm a Marine. I can eat freaking anything. Their food was nasty. Their food was cold, nasty.
Yes.
We got some out in town food. I ate it, and they said if you keep it down all night, against doctor orders, we'll release you. And next at sunrise, I'm up, and I'm hurting, dude. I'm freaking in pain.
Yes.
I'm packing my shit, and we left. I came home, and she took way better care of me than they did over there. When I was finally able to go back over there, and I think it was 3 months or so, came home and recovered here at the house. I'd go back over there to my first appointment, and I went to see and I'm pissed. I'm pissed of this treatment. This is 2018, and they're treating us like freaking third world citizens. I mean, in a VA hospital, no fucking hot water. Are you kidding me? No towels, no clean linens,
Oh,
no
yeah, that's
bedding.
something else. We asked for clean sheets, and she said we're going to have to go to a different floor to get the sheets. And we had one lady that ended up helping us and got us clean sheets and clean towels.
That lady was an angel.
Yes, she
an
was.
angel on earth.
She was, and but she's the only one that helped us.
So I went, however long it goes by, I go back over there. I'm walking on my own, went to the hospital, did my routine thing. And I went downstairs. I'd been asking around, talking, bitching, whining. And somebody said, you need to go see a patient advocate.
Right.
So I went up there, signed up for patient advocate, sat in line, ridiculous amount of time to get in there. And this dude goes, I start telling him and I start showing him pictures, and he goes, "Mr. Wilson, hold on. Let me caution you right now. This is a federal institute, and just the fact that you took pictures in here is against the law. And if you take this against the VA, they will ruin your life." That was that man's word.
Yes.
He said, "I'm going to suggest you go home and forget any of this and don't show anybody those pictures." And I'm like, looking at the dude like, "Are you serious?" And I have his card in my truck. I've saved it to this day. And
That's real bullshit.
he said, He said, I have a case filed right now against this VA for all the black mold in the duct system. It's throughout this entire hospital. And I filed agreements with them, and they're ruining my life. I didn't take any pictures and all that stuff. So I left there just absolutely defeated. I have, since then, I can't tell you how many congressmen, governors, law enforcement officers. I called the Texas Rangers. Somebody freaking, this is bullshit. And we still have brothers and sisters in that hospital being treated like this.
Yes.
And that, that's what pisses me off the most. That little old man sitting in there begging for help. And I know now he was being freaking mistreated.
I went into his room. I couldn't help myself anymore. I had walked up and down that hallway, and all he wanted was something to drink. He just wanted some water.
That's it.
So I got that man some water. Oh,
I just want you to know, everybody on here is saying you're an amazing woman.
Oh,
She is.
I mean,
She is.
to put up with the VA alone after being in the military, because I mean, they really don't, when you're in the service, they don't believe in what's called pain medicine. But when you get out, to be treated like you are nothing.
Dirt on the bottom of their shoe.
Exactly.